Joe, real quick, I want to ask you, when did you allow yourself to think that they could win the game? Jake mentioned when they got to 21-21, they're going into the fourth quarter and you're 15 minutes away, but they're down 18. You don't count them out. When did you allow yourself to say, oh my goodness, they might actually do this?
I probably didn't at any point until the Bengals had the ball in overtime, to be honest with you, because if you've watched enough Chiefs games, they are just so explosive that at any point they could break it. I mean, it doesn't take much. We watched them take the lead back against the Bills twice with like 2 minutes remaining in the game, and then with 13 seconds, and then in overtime. I mean, it just sometimes it clicks for them because they're that explosive and that good. But the Bengals just kept getting stops somehow. And then even when the Chiefs are driving down the field at the very end there, I almost thought, let them score, get the ball back to your offensive, to Joe Burrow, and because that's your best chance of winning this game. And somehow they just got stops there. The flushing them out and getting Mahomes to step out of bounds, dive out of bounds. Great plays by Hendrickson. Great plays by Hubbard. Hubbard to spy. I think that play is getting attention, but not enough. That final sack, forced fumble, that almost ended it right then and there. For him to spy and pull it out again, they need Hubbard to be that wild card for them in that front seven, which he's done a bunch this year and in the playoffs. I mean, all of these guys on the defensive side have made plays throughout this 3-game stretch here. It's amazing. I'm going to make a highlight video because it's just so important to me to how well each guy has made their plays. But Hubbard there all right, he goes left, goes right. Okay, Kelsey's now gone. And now as I'm thinking like Mahomes, all right, left and right, he's not getting out of the pocket. He's going to step up now. You see that moment for Hubbard where he just puts that foot in the ground and goes straight at him and kind of, buckles down as he's getting closer and closer, and Mahomes has nowhere to go but try and turn around and spin away. And it's just like, wow, they actually have the answer, whatever it was at that moment. I didn't know without really seeing the film. But at that point, that's when I was like, okay, they've got a chance to do this.
Mahomes looked hesitant with whatever he was seeing, the first read or even the second read. As you mentioned, you bump Kelsey, which I think maybe you undersell there a little bit, Joe, how disruptive that was to his game. Bump and then bracket at times Kelsey really limited his impact and his ability to get into his route and into the passing plays, and just the way that they paid extra attention with that single high safety. They dropped 8, but they were still playing single high, and they were dropping the other safety down to Rob. Or actually, it wasn't always dropping the safety down. Sometimes it was a corner. Sometimes it was a linebacker. They were getting creative.
Flowers,
with who they were putting in that hole. Yeah, Trey Flowers did a really nice job, I think, as well. I mean, they had a play where against 11 personnel, they had 7 defensive backs on the field. And they got Mahomes to run around with it, and eventually it's not a sack, but it's not a complete pass either. Nate Tice over on the Athletic Football Show, I think, did a great job highlighting Logan Wilson on those last 2 plays when they dropped 8 as well, getting into the passing lane, causing a little bit of hesitation from Patrick Mahomes, including the play where I think it's Byron Pringle who's like jumping up and down in the end zone after he doesn't get the ball, thinking he's open. And Logan Wilson is just like kind of perfectly splits the difference between Kelsey and Pringle on that play to make Mahomes hesitate just long enough to come off it. And Mahomes missed like 3 guys on that play because what he was expecting to see versus what he got was so different. And it's so hard to confuse Patrick Mahomes that way. But he does also have this in his history. You go back to college, the Brett Favre reputation. You go back to the people that say he's really lucky and he gets away with a lot of balls that should be picked. And so, the reputation is there. And even the last pick of the game that Jesse Bates makes a great play on, really nicely passed off from Mike Hilton to the safeties, really perfectly played bracket, perfectly played by Jesse Bates, perfectly played on the tip drill by Von Bell, right? And it's just this defense as a team that's come together with, I've called him on Twitter, mad scientist Lou Anarumo, man. Last week, putting 1,000 pounds of defensive tackles between the tackles to stop Derrick Henry. This week, going with 7 defensive backs, 3 defensive linemen, 1 linebacker against Patrick Mahomes. The versatility, variability, multiple nature of this Bengals defense really showing up.
You know, the thing that I really loved about it, and you guys will do more film stuff with Mike tomorrow, but you know, you've got a lot of listeners now, maybe some more casual listeners that don't know, but a lot of today's NFL offense versus defense is how many safeties are you keeping in the middle of the field? Is it 2 or is it 1? Is it middle of the field open, which means 2 deep safeties, or is it middle of the field closed, which means you have a single free safety in the middle of the field, and offenses normally attack the boundary in that scenario. What the Bengals or what teams usually do is they will show you 1 or 2. Let's say it this way. They'll show you 1 look before the snap, switch it after the snap so that the quarterback thinks he's getting one thing. They've switched it. Now I've got to adjust and go to the opposite, whatever you're giving me. What the Bengals did on a few plays that I thought was really awesome, and I want to highlight it, is normally at the snap, you're going to rotate that. All right. So you're showing one thing, the ball snap as the quarterback's dropping back. You're going to bring that 1 safety down into a robber look. Now you got 1 safety deep. What the Bengals were doing was holding it almost 2 counts, 1.5 counts, and then bringing that robber down, which I think was just enough to give Mahomes a little bit of hesitation of like, instead of right at the snap, you're bringing that other safety directly down into a spot because they really weren't worried about it. It's like, okay, are they going to run deeper routes and try and beat us deep? No, they're not. Bring your guy down now. And so like that little bit of just reading it and reacting, and you got to have some veteran safeties to do this. And the Bengals love their safeties. They're 2 good players that they can really count on and interchange like this. That little bit of hesitancy that I'm seeing that most teams don't do or don't trust their safeties to be able to hold was the biggest difference, I think, in this game plan.
Yeah, I like the nickname, by the way, the mad scientist, Lou Anarumo. I just quick story because it's fun to share these like little tidbits of things. I saw Lou the night before the game, fist bumped him, and I was like, "How you feeling?" He was like, "I feel good." And I was like, "No, how you feeling about tomorrow?" He was like, "Oh, I feel really good." And he smiled. So, hey, I wasn't gonna like say that ahead of the game because especially when it's 21-3, but I'll say it now, and I don't think he would mind. But that's got to be the biggest shock. Is that fair? The biggest shock this year. It's not that Joe's good. Joe Burrow's good. Joe Goodberry's good too, I guess. But Joe Burrow's really good, or Jamar Chase. Lou Anarumo's seat was hotter than Zach Taylor's. In this defense now, they're so multiple, and they form, and they have these guys. Trey Flowers is suddenly making big plays. Ask people in Seattle if they thought he was going to make big plays when the Bengals claimed him, right? And Eli Apple, the whole city of New Orleans hates Eli Apple still, and yet he's still tweeting at Tyreek Hill and McCole Hartman after the game. I mean, it's not like it's all like top picks, that are fresh out. It's not like the first pick Burrow, the 5th pick Chase. It's guys that were kind of off the scrap heap, and he's making them and putting them in position to have success.
You're right. A lot of credit for Lou Anarumo. And you know what? As a whole, I think even still, the defense is being underrated and Lou Anarumo is being underrated. And, you'll hear if you watch any national stuff, because everyone's excited right now. So I want to see what the takes are throughout the football world. And a lot of it is, Burrow, his attitude and how he encapsulates or everything about this team and how the franchise just absorbed it, which is all the things we said we hoped would happen. And so fair to give credit there. But I think when you look at it more broadly than that and say they brought in a lot of stone cold killers that just don't care about the moment at all. And Jamar Chase and Evan McPherson, right? Those guys get talked about. But then I also think like Trey Hendrickson blacks out at times and just starts taking over moments. And I go, he looks up and he looks at the camera sometimes and they catch him. And I'm like, he looks like a psycho right now. I think he's completely lost his mind. And then Jesse Bates making plays. Jesse Bates didn't get the contract extension, had an up and down year, right? He has been amazing in the playoffs. Crunch time performers. We've seen this team make other teams make the playoffs and just falter in these big moments and under the bright lights. And it was really what they were known for from 2011 to 2015. It is the exact opposite. They're all making plays. They all feel slighted in some way, and especially the guys on defense, the guys you mentioned, right? DJ Reader was slighted about the way they talked about this finesse team going into that Titans game. I think Sam Hubbard takes offense to some of when we say, because I think we all feel it some way halfway in how many games this year. They don't have the pass rush to get to this team. It's all Trey Hendrickson. And then somehow Hubbard ends up with 1.5 sacks, 2 sacks, a clutch play. That has happened so many times this year. these guys, for whatever reason, yes, it's Burrow and that personality, but I think they've brought in a lot of captains from college or from other teams and a lot of just killers that just are mad at the world and want to prove everyone wrong.
On defense, veterans, guys from winning teams, winning programs, and captains. Like you said, big point of emphasis there. We haven't talked about Joe Burrow hardly at all. And we're 20 minutes into this episode. Maybe we should finish there. We'll talk Joe Burrow in this offense in this clutch game, as this team has a clutch gene, coming up next.